The Falcons started slowly in last night's match at the Entertainment Centre, but Captain Butch Hayes brought the home side back, doing what he does best. In his 150th NBL game, Matthew Rees was quick to lend a hand. David Van Dyke was all-star. And when Rees found three, Newcastle led 24-22 at the first break. It was the three-point show, firstly Butch Hayes, then Rees again, and the Falcons were in control. Geelong started the second half just as they did the first. That margin of 7 was soon cut to 2, and then they hit the front. The final term and Butch Hayes gave the Falcons the edge with seconds remaining. Down by 2, the Supercats had one last shot at the home side, but the Falcons stood strong, winning 85-83 and jumping back into playoff contention.
Despite the cloud of uncertainty hanging over Newcastle's future, the furnaces inside BHP continue to burn as brightly as ever. But industrial unrest is also beginning to smoulder, with unions saying they're dissatisfied by evasive answers. With the 12-month review of the company's entire operations announced last week, all once concrete plans have been put on hold. An electric arc furnace for Newcastle is now a mere possibility. Even the rumour that local operations may be downgraded to a 300-worker steel pressing plant hasn't been denied.
I think it would be far too early to sort of presume anything like that, but just have to wait and see.
The Australian Workers' Union claims that with thousands depending on BHP for their livelihood in Newcastle, the uncertainty isn't good enough. At a meeting with Head of Steel Ron McNeely on Wednesday, they'll demand answers about how serious the risk is to Newcastle. AWU representative Maury Rudd says it's essential that workers be kept up to date with the company's review as it progresses. Whether BHP will agree to such a demand is yet to be seen.
If we can do it progressively, we will. If it needs to be all tied together, it's going to take a year.
While the past year has been industrially peaceful at BHP, the union says amicable relations won't continue if the company doesn't include workers in the restructuring process. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.
The clean-up program aims to address the problem of lead contamination in suburbs surrounding the Pasminco lead smelter. It's the latest in a series of strategies, including new environmental controls at Pasminco to reduce blood lead levels in children.
There was a commission of inquiry last year where the Pasminco plant were giving approval for an upgrade, and the Department of Planning put on some very stringent environmental controls.
The program involves removing dust, paint and soil containing lead from the affected houses and also sealing any small cracks and crevices in the buildings. In the first stage of the program, about 15 to 20 houses in the Boolaroo, Argenton and Spears Point areas will be cleaned up, the project targeting homes with young children.
We've been given $200,000 from the State Environmental Trust, and also with $100,000 given to us by Pasminco to move on the houses where the children have got the greater need. In other words, children that have got elevated blood lead levels.
follow-up tests will be held to check how effective the process has been. Emma Siossian, NBN News. Thirty-three-year-old Francisco Lee speaks little English and is still struggling to find his feet in Australia, having joined other East Timorese in fleeing his own country 4 years ago.
But in my country situation no good, but me want to come here, make application for the stay here in Australia.
Now a cloud has descended over his future in Australia, with the Refugee Review Tribunal rejecting his application for refugee status.
Because he was actually born in East Timor when Portugal was the colonising power there, that indeed he would have to make application to live in Portugal as a refugee.
Francisco has launched an appeal with the federal court, but it could be years before a decision is reached. Until then, he, along with many other East Timorese, is virtually trapped in a sort of legal limbo. Unable to receive any government assistance, he is being looked after by the group Christians in Solidarity with East Timor, which operates out of the House of Hospitality at Adamstown. And there is little he can do but wait.
I don't know how long for the waiting, but me just waiting now.
She may be only 17, but Rochelle Richards is already a super coach. Her Maitland under-11 netball side has just returned from Sydney, where it won the state age championships, winning 19 games, losing none.
Yeah, I thought we'd go fairly well because at the carnivals we'd performed well and consistently, but to go undefeated, that was a big surprise and we did well.
It's an achievement no one before her has ever managed. She earned her Level 1 Australian coaching certificate late last year and had to overcome the knockers before being given the job.
To achieve that well was sort of a big shock, and being so young it was sort of good to turn around to the other people and sort of say, well, I did it.
The sentiment in the team is united.
Yeah, she's like a big sister.
And Big Sis intends to stay.
Well, hopefully I want to take these through to the 15s, at least get 4 of them named in the state squad. So I'm aiming for that in the next couple of years.
Jonathan Upton, NBN News. A civic reception in Newcastle today for the National Rugby League of Fiji. They arrived early, walking proudly in their uniform for the city's official welcome. Arriving slightly late, the Kangaroos. Inside, formal introductions, but some were overcoming the language barrier with ease. The Fiji team has been given no chance for Friday's Test match. 68-point start is now 92.
We've had to put a pool in, we're going to have a bit of it.
A hiccup backstage added to the humour before outgoing Chairman Ken Arthurson pleaded for the public's support. The ARL is hoping for a crowd in excess of 20,000.
If ever we needed some assistance, the time is now.
The Australian team had its medicals this morning. All players were past fit.
Adam Muir, he'll be right. So will Matthew Johns. They're a bit dusty at the moment, but they'll be right by game time.
Both teams will train daily in the lead up to the test. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
The play, titled Angel of Mercy, was first written 2 years ago, loosely based on the experience of one Australian mass killer, 22-year-old Frank Vitkovich, who shot dead 8 people and wounded 10 others before killing himself in Melbourne in 1987. It explores the phenomenon of random mass murders. Writer Carl Caulfield says that while the play does come not long after the Port Arthur massacre, the issues have been dealt with as sensitively as possible.
All I can say is that it's written out of a sense of social concern. We've been very kind of sensitive in the way we've dealt with things. There's no glamorisation of this character. On the contrary, it's written as a kind of way to expose the inadequacies of the character.
The play uses a variety of imagery and short scenes to show the events leading up to a mass killing, also using video to highlight the amount of violence present in today's society.
The visual milieu that we have there is one of violence, robots killing, and it's part of the entertainment that you find.
The play starts at the Newcastle Community Arts Centre on Saturday. Emma Ossian, NBN News. Police say the girl was on a group outing at Jesmond Park when she was grabbed by the man from an area near the playground equipment at about 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon. She was dragged into bushland near a bike track where the assault took place. The girl was injured in the attack and taken to the John Hunter Hospital for treatment. Based on her description of the attacker, police today began handing out leaflets describing the man to people in the Jesmond area, particularly those at Jesmond Park. The suspect is thought to be in his 30s with a medium build, fair complexion and dark hair tied in a ponytail. He also had a small brown dog and a white Falcon panel van. Anyone with information is urged to contact Waratah Police. Emma Ossian, NBN News.
With the 4 big names out of action all week, the Knights headed indoors today, brushing up on a few other skills.
We have plenty of opportunities with the ball through the week, so it's a nice break for them.
The truth be known, the Knights perhaps had little choice for their training. Malcolm really believes the session without playmakers Andrew and Matthew Johns may have caused more harm than good. Tonight, all will attend the test, hoping the Newcastle connection comes through the match fit for Monday's trip to Brisbane.
We've had a lot of problems, with the representative implications with the state of origin, and each game we played, after one of those games, we've missed one of the key players.
The big concern for Really is Adam Muir. He's still not fully over that knee injury.
It is a problem. I just hope he has the common sense to make sure that when he does play, he's free from injury totally.
Really has no doubt Newcastle can improve on last week's loss to Canberra. Although the scoreboard was against them, he says it was one of their best performances this season. Equally impressive though with the Broncos. They lost that controversial game earlier this week and are hoping to balance the Monday night ledger on their home soil. Jonathan Upton, NBN News. With only 5 wins under their belt this season, Cessnock needed the 2 competition points in last night's match at Marathon Stadium, and it didn't take long for them to find the Cheetahs' defence lacking. In front of 19,000 fans, Waratah were not to be outdone. Good hands in the pace of Jason McGrath, and the underdogs hit back before Brent Trembath picked up the scraps and the Cheetahs raced to a 10-4 lead. Sloppy defence and Cessnock levelled. 10 points apiece, Trembath found his second. But Cessnock bounced straight back. On his old hunting ground, Ashley Gordon set up another 4-pointer. And when Shane Tobin crossed, it looked as though the Goannas were home. 2 controversial penalties and Brent Trembath made no mistakes from in front of the sticks to square the match at 18 all, and despite desperate attempts to break the deadlock, the Cheetahs stood strong, escaping with a draw and dealing the Goannas finals hopes perhaps the knockout blow. At Breakers Stadium this afternoon, Western was trying to keep its unbeaten run intact in the NBN Soccer League, but up 1-0 at half-time, the Bears did it tough early in the second term, the Red Devils' attack and miserable conditions proving to be the leveller. After weathering the storm, Bears striker Ian Tressiter weaved magic and the competition leaders took a 2-goal advantage. Wall's End did its share of attacking, but Bears keeper Peter Oberhauser was exceptional. In the Newcastle Men's Hockey Premiership, Souths remain undefeated in the competition, beating the Tigers 5-2, while Uni drew with Norths. The Students started well, attacking right from the outset, nearly scoring after only 1 minute. Better luck soon after when veteran Peter Sweeney set up Andrew Abbo. Looking at defeat, the Blues hit out. Their shots at goal were also going astray, eventually coming home strongly though to finish with a draw. And in tennis, the New South Wales Country Championships continued at Newcastle's District Park courts today with doubles in full swing. Through to the next round in the men's division, Dale Hyde and Tony Nelson, they won a 3-setter against Newcastle duo David Ash and Jason Knights, while in the women, Sonia Close and Kimberly Bryan from Coffs Harbour also advanced after a straight sets victory over another Newcastle pair, Monique Holtz and Tracy Turnbull.
Oh, of course not.
bit over to your right. There's one here. Is he big enough? No, there's another one going. I suggest you go Keep going, keep going. On three, 1, 2, 3.
Ambulance crews were called to the Windale address shortly after 4 this afternoon, the boy's distressed father arriving minutes later. The youngsters were playing on the wall outside this house when it came crashing down.
Matthew and Christopher climbing up the brick wall, and we were just coming out the backyard, and all we saw was just Christopher fall down. And Matthew jumped on top of the bricks, and Christopher was halfway down, and all the bricks crumbled on him.
The cement blocks broke Christopher Blanch's leg. At first it was thought his injuries may have been much worse, as he's undergone brain surgery in the past 18 months. His younger brother Matthew escaped with cuts and abrasions. Both have been taken to the John Hunter Hospital. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Cessnock's town centre could be in for a facelift, ratepayers chipping in $400,000 to do the job. The plan is to improve parking and upgrade seating in a bold move to make the town centre more people-friendly. It's not a new idea, but council believes this time something has to be done.
There's been a lot of studies done and we've drawn on those studies, so we are committed to doing it this time.
The idea is to snare more tourist dollars which are bubbling through to the vineyards. Virtually no traffic stops in Cessnock's main street, and so the big sell has begun. Cessnock is looking for a new image, and while the coal background will always be a part of the city, the coalfields tag is officially out, and Cessnock, the town of wine country, is in.
Bring a little bit of Beaumont Street and Leichhardt and whatever into Cessnock with good food places and different shopping and to attract the tourists to stop in town. And
the Tourist Board is encouraging businesses to appreciate they must appeal to a more sophisticated market. Public comment is being called for in the move to revitalise the area. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Lake Macquarie didn't look inviting today. For the Australian junior water ski team, it was training as usual. On Saturday, the squad of 4 leaves for the World Titles in Edmonton, Canada, an intensive 3-day tournament against competitors from more than 30 countries.
We're rated probably as a bit of a dark horse, but we hope that we can perform creditably.
The team will compete in 3 disciplines. There's slalom, where skiers tackle a pass through a series of buoys, jumping, where they fly for distance, and tricking, which is simply that. One of the best chances for an individual medal is 17-year-old Chris Coburn. 2 years ago, he was named for Australia as a reserve.
Yeah, well, it always helps having experience at that level. I mean, World Championships, it's high level and there's a lot of pressure. So having experience, that certainly helps.
For brothers Dane and Jay Puxty and 15-year-old Belinda Hayward, it's all a new experience, their first major international tournament. The team departs for Canada this weekend to familiarise themselves with the ski site. Competition starts in early August. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
It was a day people in Newcastle will never forget. The 28th of December 1989, an earthquake struck, killing 13 people. There were many heroes who toiled together in that time of tragedy. At the Newcastle Workers Club, fire brigade officers were the first on the scene.
We evacuated what people we could, and then we concentrated on those that were trapped. Just stayed in there until we got everybody out.
Nearly 7 years on, 9 firefighters were recognised for their bravery and commitment on the day of the quake. Firefighters from Newcastle, Charlestown and Mayfield West fire stations. And why the long break? The brigade says because of the men's reluctance to accept the awards.
On the day and immediately thereafter, they really wanted to just be seen to be doing their job for Newcastle.
The residents here say life is good, a leisurely game of croquet on a winter's afternoon. But these are the lucky few, the 50 or so fortunate enough to beat the crowds for a place at the only home of its kind in the area.
I don't believe that a lot of people understand the situation with nursing home beds and the availability or lack of.
You mean how hard it is to get in?
And how hard it is to get in.
Thousands of senior citizens retire to Port Stephens seeking the good life, but find once they're unable to look after themselves, there's nowhere locally for them to go.
It's sort of like the dog chasing its tail. The more facilities we build, the more people come and retire here.
The lack of places in Port Stephens means many are forced away from family and friends to facilities in Newcastle and Raymond Terrace. 5 of the people moving into the 6 new beds will come back from a long wait in hospitals outside the local area.
It's very unfortunate, but I suppose the true figures would show that probably just as many, maybe more, die waiting to get in than actually get into a nursing home.
But despite the heartbreak of turning away 42 of the 48 who applied for the new beds, staff say the additional wing means at least 6 old and infirm people will return to a dignified standard of living. Laura Saperstein, NBN News. It's a marriage of convenience. With Jesmond High little more than a stone's throw from the university, they're natural partners in their common aim of education. Inspired by a Canadian prototype, the schools are planning to share their knowledge and facilities. High school students will have access to the uni's library, labs and lecture rooms.
And the resources of the experts here on the university to be able to slip across the road to take a class.
In return, the university's Faculty of Education will have the chance to observe real-life school students. But Jesmond High students weren't the only ones benefiting from the university's accumulated knowledge today. 5,000 Year 12 pupils from around the state made their way to the campus to get a first-hand view of what university life has to offer. At about 70 lectures and seminars, students heard detailed information about the university's courses, creating a more solid basis on which they can choose a career.
A lot of us had no idea sort of what we would like to do, so it has helped in that way.
Organiser Kathy Shanahan says better information before enrolling in a tertiary course means savings of money and time for both taxpayers and students.
It can be a downright disaster for everybody if they make the wrong decision. So the better informed they are when they actually come to university and are at the stage of making their decisions, the better it is for everybody.
Laura Saperstein, NBN News. It was supposed to be a major linchpin in the push to revitalise the city centre, removing heavy rail traffic from the CBD and consequently reducing congestion on the streets. At least that was the driving force behind the Chamber of Commerce's proposal. But the state government says it'll be too expensive, underused and ineffective. Strong words that seem to sound the death knell for the idea.
Well, it certainly says that it doesn't stand up on that analysis, and at this stage I wouldn't see that it would be given a green light.
The Chamber of Commerce has described the findings as a political stunt, saying the state government has drawn inappropriate conclusions from its data and made irrelevant comparisons with the Sydney light rail system.
The left wing of the Labor Party in Newcastle does not want anything to change, including the situation with the city centre dying on its feet.
The proposal would have seen the rail system east of Woodville Junction replaced with light rail services into the city, but the government's draft report says aside from the problem of cost, the prospect of changing trains to reach the city would have deterred commuters. The report is now open to public comment.
Properties in 39 countries around the world. So from the original rooms, anything you could possibly think of. Or written down anything else.